Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about Katy Perry. Now, I know that there has been so much online, let's say, critique and commentary on the whole Blue Origin trip to space, quote unquote, and whether that trip even happened and all the conspiracy theories of why it's fake and the video of the door like collapsing inwards when they open. There's a lot. I haven't even been trying to follow that, and I happen to know it. It's like I absorb whatever's on my timeline, whether I'm interested or not, for better or worse, probably worse. Aside from people making fun of Katy Perry being in space and not actually looking out the fucking windows and looking at the camera with a flower, apart from that, Katy Perry has also been in the news because there's footage that came out of her tour where it pretty much just seems like she does not give a fuck and does not want to be there. Now, some people are saying that that's because she's stuck in a contract and so she has to perform, basically. But this is the footage that's going around of her performance, and it's rough. It's giving very much student who's taking mime kind of thing. So I don't know what's going on there. My empathy for Katy Perry runs pretty low considering the situation with Dr. Luke and her choice to continue working with him even when he was outed for being a predator. I'm gonna try here, okay? I'm gonna try and not be super harsh, but let's just say the Katy Perry that we loved in the 2000s is no longer, in my opinion. So one of the interesting things, though, that has come out of this Blue Origin / tour dance routine disaster is that people have unearthed reasons why she sucks. And for the most part, I really don't care to go back like 20 years ago, Katy Perry did this, unless it's actually something significant. And for the most part, a lot of it is just drama from 20 years ago, so whatever on that. That being said, sometimes people do things that are very telling, and even if they're 20 years ago, if they're telling enough about a personality, to me it's like, okay, that might have been 20 years ago, but are you different today? Did your principles completely change? Your morals completely change? Doubtful. So what am I talking about? Let's get into it. Every twist and turn in Katy Perry's bitter legal battle with nuns over the purchase of their former convent. So you know we're in for a rough ride if, let's say, the quote-unquote antagonist or the person that is against Katy Perry in a legal battle is nuns. 89-year-old Sister Rita Callanan recently declared that Katy Perry, the pop star most famous for catchy radio hits like I Kissed a Girl and Roar, has blood on her hands. To be noted, this article was published in 2019. I was trying to find something from back in the day when this occurred. Callanan is the last living member of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, a group of nuns who lived in a sprawling Los Angeles convent. Years ago, Perry offered millions of dollars to buy the estate. The Archdiocese of Los Angeles supported Perry's purchase, while the nuns didn't. This sparked a bitter legal battle that lasted for multiple years and culminated in a shocking courthouse death last year. Let me just say this. If there were a valid reason to drag nuns into a legal battle, I'd support it, right? Because based on principles and morals, if something fucked up is going on, it's like just because you're a nun, you're not excused from that. That being said, the concept of dragging nuns to court because you want to buy a convent that they don't want to give up is kind of gross to me, really. Especially if you consider who Katy Perry is. It's like if you were some broke-ass student who's barely making ends meet and you have to live somewhere because it's your only option and so you have to do something morally reprehensible. I'm not saying I'd support it because if it's morally reprehensible, it's morally reprehensible, but I could understand. But someone with the means of Katy Perry where she could buy any place she wanted in any part of the world probably, you're really gonna go to a legal battle over a convent against old little nuns? Like, this is the hill you want to die on. I mean, even for me, and I'm cold as fuck, but like that's yikes. Anyway, in 1972, the Sisters of the Immaculate Heart of Mary pooled their money to purchase the property. The French-style chateau was designed by architect Bernard Maybeck and built in 1927. The complex includes 8 acres, more than 30,000 square feet of living space, and an adjoining house of prayer that's still in use by the local clergy. So here's a picture of the estate. According to the New York Times, the sisters purchased the property from businessman Daniel Donahue after the death of his wife, who was posthumously honored as a papal countess by the Vatican. Donahue sold his estate to the sisters for just $600,000, which is crazy. In Los Angeles, a place that big for $600,000 is like giving it away. I don't live in LA, and the houses on my block are not mansions, and they cost more than that. What made him leave was the memory of his wife, Bernardine. Sister Callanan told the Times in 2015, a year after Donahue had died. In those early years, 52 Sisters of the Immaculate Heart of Mary lived on the property, according to the Los Angeles Times. By 2011, just 5 remained. The remaining sisters were reportedly forced to relocate in 2011. According to Billboard, the Archdiocese of Los Angeles forced the elderly sisters to leave the convent against their wills. We had to do what we were told, Sister Catherine Rose Holtzman told Billboard. I think it's because they were trying to sell our property. They had been trying for years, even when we lived there, but none of us ever wanted to leave. The nuns' relocation lies at the heart of the current property dispute. While the Archdiocese began to entertain potential buyers, the sisters still believed the property belonged to them, so only they could sell it, especially because they felt they'd been mistreated in recent years. As Danielle Bacher wrote for Billboard in 2015, the nuns say during the last 2 decades, their treatment by the Archdiocese has devolved into a troubling pattern of neglect and broken promises. So when Archbishop Jose Gomez agreed to sell the property to Perry without any input or involvement from the sisters, the women said they were immediately concerned without even knowing who Perry was because they feared they wouldn't see any of that money. Perry offered to buy the estate for $14.5 million in cash. According to Billboard, Perry showed interest in the convent as early as 2013. The gospel singer turned pop star, a daughter of evangelical Christian preachers, planned to move in with her mother and grandmother. Gomez accepted her $14.5 million cash offer sometimes in 2013 or 14, but Holtzman and Callanan, 2 of the last 5 living sisters at the time, refused to sell to Perry. Holtzman had researched the celebrity buyer and found a video of Perry joking about selling her soul to the devil in exchange for success. Now, the whole thing of selling your soul to the devil in exchange for success, honestly, I do think Hollywood is fucked up and full of pedophiles, like a lot of other industries, really. But the whole satanic thing is tired to me, and I don't really like the pinning of Satan on anything that's remotely less religious or slightly sacrilegious, if we really want to put it that way. Katy Perry making a joke about selling her soul to the devil, like, okay. I think that is truly a non-issue in the big scheme of things, because really what we should be concerned about is someone's morals and ethics, right? And obviously, if you sell your soul to the devil, you are corrupt. But basing all of an opinion on a joke, no. But if you did look into her scandals, for example, that would be a different story, because I would understand not wanting to sell to someone that you view as, let's say, unworthy of a sacred place, right? Because it is a convent still, so it's not just like some random house on a block. Like, it has a house of worship attached to it, so I can understand why nuns would be particular about who has it, and I think that that's valid. The same way that even people who sell their houses can be particular, mind you. So let alone a place that's sacred or religious or whatever. That's like 10 times more intense, right? Even mentioning that she would sell her soul to Satan is against our principles and beliefs, Holtzman told Billboard in 2015. Katy Perry represents everything we don't believe in. It would be a sin to sell it to her. And again, I said my whole piece about selling your soul to the devil or whatever, but the point still stands. It makes sense that nuns would not be in favor of someone like Katy Perry, the same way that if I tried to purchase that joint, I can almost bet you that they would not be in favor just because of my tattoos. And I say that as someone who was raised Catholic, and yikes. Callanan was similarly displeased by the idea of Perry living in her former home. She told the Los Angeles Times that she was particularly unimpressed with Perry's performance of Teenage Dream at the 2015 Super Bowl halftime show. Now that is hilarious. I would love to see nuns roast people's performances at Super Bowl halftime shows. Well, I found Katy Perry and I found her videos, and if it's all right to say, I wasn't happy with any of it, Callanan said. At the request of the Archbishop, Holtzman and Callanan met with Perry in May 2015. In an attempt to win them over, Perry reportedly sang the gospel song "Oh Happy Day" and showed the nuns her tattoo of the word Jesus on her wrist. How stupid does she think these nuns are? Like, that is such an obvious, like, sad attempt to appeal to what, pathos? To hope that you're gonna sway them with your Jesus tattoo? Like, girl, truly, if you're religious, that's fine, but it's like, you probably shouldn't be weaponizing it in order to buy a property, right? She was nice, Holtzman told Billboard. She told us why she wanted the property and then sang a song and left. I think they were unimpressed. Acting under the belief that they alone owned the convent, the sisters quickly sold the estate to restaurateur and developer Dana Hollister. Hollister made her offer directly to the nuns, $15.5 million and $100,000 in cash up front. They accepted without ever meeting her and immediately turned over the deed. She moved in shortly after, intending to turn the property into a boutique hotel. The sisters told the New York Times that Hollister's offer was partly preferable because she agreed to keep the property open to the public. "What I'm doing is really pure," Hollister told Billboard. "I don't give a shit about the money. I met these sisters and realized if I don't help, who's going to?" The Archdiocese and Perry both sued Hollister. The sisters have been taken advantage of by the Hollister transaction, the Archdiocese claimed in a 2015 statement. In July 2015, mere months after Hollister bought the convent, a judge invalidated her purchase. He also ruled that Hollister could continue to live there as long as she paid the sisters $25,000 a month in rent while the lawsuits were pending. Perry also sued the restaurateur for interfering with her own purchase. According to court documents filed in September 2015, Perry's team claimed that Hollister took advantage of vulnerable elderly nuns who she malevolently convinced to oppose the Roman Catholic Church. "It's interesting she has all this girl power and she's running over a woman and 5 nuns," Hollister told Billboard of Perry. "We're going to Rome. We are not quitting now. We're just getting warmed up." Perry won the right to purchase the convent in 2017, but still needed the Vatican's approval. A Los Angeles Superior Court judge ruled in favor of the Archdiocese, clearing Perry's path to buy the estate. I'm just going to say this now, and I think this about so many different celebrity, let's say, situations, is that a lot of the time it seems like they really don't know how to use their own resources, because it's very hard for me to believe that if you had a up to par real estate agent, lawyer, all of these things, I feel like a lot of the situation could be avoided. Because even like the fact that the nuns technically didn't have the right to sell the joint, like how do you not know that? Like, how do you not have paperwork that proves that one of these nuns or all of these nuns are the ones who are technically on the deed? Like, did they not check anything? It's just crazy to me that someone with that amount of resources could get mixed up in something so messy. And it's also like, it's hard for me to believe that a lawyer or whoever she has advising her wouldn't just tell her to drop this entirely, because whether or not Katy Perry got screwed over, this is horrible PR. This is, like, the optics are absolutely heinous. Like, the concept of you basically being pissed off at nuns because they sold to someone else who they deemed as a better owner than you, also because the house would be kept open to the public. Yikes. The court finds that the sisters did not have the authority to sell the property to Hollister. Judge Stephanie Bowick wrote in her ruling, "The Pope did not consent to the sale of the property to Hollister, and there was no written approval from the Holy See or Archbishop. As reported by Billboard, any sale of church property that exceeds $7.5 million in an archdiocese with more than 500,000 people requires final approval from the Vatican. In September 2017, it was reported that the Vatican wouldn't approve Perry's purchase until she found a replacement for the property's house of prayer. In November of 2017, a jury found that Hollister intentionally interfered with Perry's legal purchase. She was ordered to pay the archdiocese $3.47 million in attorney fees and Perry's company $1.57 million in fees. She was also found guilty of malice and fraud, so a second phase of the trial was set to determine if either group should be awarded more money in punitive damages. Hollister declared bankruptcy shortly after. In March of 2018, one of the nuns died in a courtroom while supporting Hollister. Holtzman and Callanan both accompanied Hollister to bankruptcy court in order to show their support. "Katy Perry, please stop," 89-year-old Holtzman told Fox 11 while standing outside the Los Angeles courtroom. "It's not doing anyone any good except hurting a lot of people." Hours later, she collapsed and died during the court proceeding. On Saturday, 81-year-old Callanan told the New York Post that Perry has blood on her hands. "I really don't like Katy Perry," Callanan told the Post. "I'm sure she doesn't like me." The convent is currently back on the market, and this was back in 2019. I don't know what the deal is with the convent now, and frankly, I'm a little scared to find out. That being said, because of the Blue Origin thing and all the drama about Katy's terrible performances, or effortless performances in a bad way, punitive, negative, pejorative. This, I think, is one of the more interesting things to come out of that, because as much as we can critique a performance or say that she only went to space for 10 minutes or was more obsessed with a flower and looking into the camera instead of looking out of the window, all of those things, this is actually more telling about someone's personality. And maybe I'm a little bit superstitious to some degree, but the concept of forcing nuns out of a place that's quote unquote theirs, and I know what we read, right? So they didn't have the authority to actually sell the place, right? And that's fine. That's on the nuns. They shouldn't have sold to Hollister. All of that being said, if we look past the paperwork and we look at just the concept of getting these nuns mixed up in all of this controversy and legal shit is crazy. And the fact that Katy Perry also kind of went after Hollister is crazy. It just seems like a lot of work for a property that was never yours. I feel like there's a weird disconnect there, because if I really wanted a house, but the owner did not want to sell to me for whatever reason, it's demoralizing, potentially depressing, upsetting, all of these things. But at the same time, it's like, again, we return to, this is a millionaire. So, like, this is by no means the only house you can afford, and this is by no means the end-all be-all house, right? So as upset as you are, it also seems very weird to me that you would dedicate yourself to suing and dragging this shit out, because it's also like, again, do you really want to live in a house that has all this baggage before you even move in? Like, you haven't even moved in yet and you've already gone to court. You've already upset people. You've already upset nuns, and that's the house you want to move into, the place where they used to worship and live, and now you've pissed them off, you've upset them, and one of them's dead, and that's where you want to move in? I'm not very superstitious, but that just seems like an off way to start a new chapter, like when you move into a new house, right? That just seems like a bad omen altogether. And it's also weird to me that you can't just let go and look for another property. You have to drag this. Very weird. I found the behavior all relatively extreme, considering that we're just talking about a property for her mom and her grandma, I believe it is, to live in. But that's just me. I do know that this has surfaced because of the Blue Origin thing, but anytime you look in the comments, if you scroll long enough, there is someone who's going to be mentioning this. So I'm wondering if this is going to become more of an issue, because honestly, I was not aware about this at all. And granted, I don't really care about Katy Perry to the degree of doing research on her life, but it never came up on my timeline even back in the day that I can recall. Anyway, you guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you've seen videos of her performance, like other than what I showed you here, or even just that one, let me know what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.